first community forum, candidate forum for District 79. I want to go ahead and thank everyone for being here today. Thank you, Dr. Weber, for being here today. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate that. Spring Valley appreciates you. Thank you for the question screeners. We need volunteers like you all the time. Thank you, New Seasons Church, for allowing us to be here and give Vines. Appreciate you very much. We're going to go ahead and get started right away. So I'm going to introduce you to Jane Andrews with the League of Women Voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Braulio and Christopher Pierce and the Spring Valley Community Alliance and to the candidates for being willing to participate in this forum. My name is Jane Andrews. I'm with the League of Women Voters and I will be your moderator. And this is the forum for the office of 79th Assembly District. We would like to thank candidates LaShae Colin and candidate Colin Parent for attending. So, housekeeping rules. There are bathrooms outside that door. Please silence your cell phones. And the League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public. For clarity, I do not live in this district, so I have no dog on this. Thank you all for coming and becoming informed voters. We are using the League of Women Voters format for this forum. As part of our mission to educate voters, the League moderates candidate forums across the country using a format that is fair and informative. And the candidates have all agreed to this format in advance. It is a forum with the voters, not a debate between the candidates. So we have timekeeper Gail Viamonte, who will keep track of the time by raising tablets at agreed upon intervals. Candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, 2 minutes for their closing, and 1 minute to respond to each question from the audience. The order of the candidates has been randomly selected. And we also agreed, since we have an hour and a half, that we may have some questions if they're complicated that could go a little over a minute for answers. The most important part of this forum is hearing from you and the questions that you have for the candidates. There will be no verbal questions from the audience. Lead pages and Noel, Brenda Richmond, and Pam Curtis are passing out index cards and pencils and will collect your questions and give them to our candidate screeners. So we have Donna Bartlett-May and Mackenzie Kerwin from the League of Women Voters, and Tina Flores from the Spring Valley Community Alliance Group. So, we'll give you a choice for tonight. Okay, so please word questions in a general way. Please remember to use civility and respect in wording your questions. Be succinct. Questions directed specifically to one candidate will be held until there are specific questions for all candidates. And the volunteers can assist you in writing your questions. The question screeners organize the questions into categories of a similar nature to avoid repetition and assure topics of greatest interest are being asked. Questions that are inappropriate for this branch of government involved in the forum will be set aside. Please hold all applause until the forum is finished to ensure that all the candidates have equal time to keep things moving. Since the candidate forum is designed to provide a nonpartisan setting for undecided voters seeking all positions, any demonstration of support or opposition, such as clapping or booing, will be ruled out of order. Unheeded warnings may result in the cancellation of the forum. Are there any questions about our format or the evening? Okay, and now for the opening statements. We will begin with candidate Parent.
Thank you very much. My name is Colin Parent. I'm on the City Council in La Mesa, where I've served for almost 8 years now. I grew up in the unincorporated East County, in the unincorporated part of El Cajon, Valhalla High School graduate. My mom still lives in the same house where I grew up, right between Valhalla and Grand Hills. My mom lives in
Good evening. My name is Dr. LaShae Collins, candidate for California State Assembly to represent the 79. Thank you so much to the New Seasons Community Church in Spring Valley, Community Alliance for hosting this forum, and the League of Women Voters as well. I am the only candidate that is endorsed by the California Democratic Party. Only candidate that was born and raised right in the heart of the 79th State Assembly District. Meaning that I'm a graduate of Lincoln High School. Went on to left Lincoln High School, went on to San Diego State University, where I have obtained all 3 of my degrees. I am the only candidate that has grown up in a middle-class family in the heart of Southeast San Diego, who truly understands the overall values for what this district currently has, but also have the shared lived experience. As a result of that, I bring to you 9 years of experience of being the district director for our current Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. As a district director, that has afforded me the opportunity to be able to already know and understand the ins and outs of this particular office. That means I was her right hand. I understand the needs and the concerns for this district as it pertains to housing, as it pertains to homelessness, as it pertains to the reproductive freedoms of what we currently have. Understanding the environmental justice that is there, and also being able to address the social justice issues that also exist within the 79th district. These things are near and dear to me because I share these lived experiences. So me running for the seat has everything to do with you who are in this room. I'm not running for the seat because it's something that I woke up and said, this is what I want to do. I'm running because this is something that my community has asked me to do, because they know that I understand their hearts and the values of this district, and that I was going to fight for what's just and right. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to this forum, and I'm hoping that you guys can continue to get to know me as I'm going to continue to get to know you. Thank you.
Okay.
Make sure Colin's mic is on.
Can you hear me?
Now it's on. I did that whole thing when it wasn't on. All right.
Is this better? Okay, and now for the questions. So the first question, what actions have you taken to protect existing San Diego middle-income, lower-income, affordable housing in historically affordable communities as neighborhoods gentrify with investors converting long-term housing to short-term vacation rentals? Build-to-rent housing to thank you. Built-to-rent housing replace. I've lost my train of thought here. Anyway, let me go back again. What actions have you taken to protect existing San Diego middle-income, lower-income, affordable housing? That's the core of the question. So I think we'll have Ms. Collins begin.
You said the question is what actions have we taken to address them?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So some of the actions that have been taken, that we can say have already been taken by the state, is to continue to do everything we can to expand affordable housing programs. We must continue to do that overall work. Also, as we are expanding the housing programs, what we need to continue to do is look at, and I hope the state will continue to look at, is opening up the current state property. We have a lot of state property that is currently available for us to utilize to address housing and to address homelessness, for us to build on those particular lands. And so I want to continue on with that conversation to ensure that we open that up. But also I've been working with school districts in regards to them now building housing on their current property. So San Diego Unified, they have done the work, other school districts have done the work, and now some churches have also done the work to start to build property on their current land.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So we absolutely have to have more homes. That we have a housing crisis because we don't have enough homes, and that's why things are so unaffordable for people. But it's also true that we need to make sure that as we're building those homes, that we're not displacing existing residents, existing affordability. Under some of the state laws that exist that I've worked on, there's a requirement that can't use we can't build on places where there are existing affordable homes to avoid that kind of displacement. I've successfully championed keeping those policies in policies that have adopted in the city of San Diego about the Affordable Homes Bonus Program, and also making sure that, that those provisions are maintained in some of the state legislation that I successfully authored or written and sponsored to get adopted statewide just in the last few years. This is a really important, we need more housing, but we need to make sure that we're balancing that with existing residents and making sure that we're maintaining the affordability to what extent it exists, that we maintain it as well.
Thank you. All right, for this next question, I'm going to alternate who starts, so Mr. Farrer. Why do we need housing? Some neighborhoods are seeing high-rises go up on single-family lots or tall ADUs blocking out sunlight in neighbors' yards. Should there be limits to protect existing homeowners?
Yeah, so there's absolutely no circumstance of people building tall towers on single-family lots. That's not allowed. If it was single-family lots, you wouldn't be allowed to do that. Just so folks understand, in La Mesa, there's been a lot of these talks about ADUs, right? City of San Diego has a very aggressive program that allows for, in some circumstances, an unlimited number of ADUs in people's backyards. That's not what we chose to do in the city of La Mesa. Instead, what we did is we made it very easy for homeowners to be able to build one ADU in their backyard. And a lot of us have taken us up on that. We've had hundreds of applications since we've liberalized those rules. And I think that's been a great balance it allows for homeowners to be able to make the investments that they need in their properties so that they can develop more equity and generational wealth, but also create the needed housing the housing that we need to be able to make more affordable opportunities for people to be able to make a go of it here in the region. I think that's the right balance to approach these issues.
Should there be some limits to help protect the homes? Well, when I think about San Diego, and I think about actually my mother's here, and there are some housing units that are going up right now. The housing units that are going up right now has impacted the actual community. Why? Because the parking, number one. We have people coming in, more than one person is moving into homes now, and everybody has a car. And so there should be some limits there in regards to how we're going to deal with the parking issue that is there. Also making sure that we start to look at how the infrastructure is surrounding where the development is going. I can tell you right now, there's only one other way to get out. We need to open up this ending cul-de-sac so that way more access can come in to help us with that. So when we talk about should we have some limits, there should be some limits, and we should have a conversation with those that are in the community to make sure that their voices are being heard as we move forward to make these certain types of decisions. And that's what this position is about. Making sure that we understand it's our collective responsibility to do the work and to understand the needs and the concerns of our constituents. And that's what I would do.
It's standing. I've got the next one for you to start. What are your plans to address the homeless in the 79 centers?
I have some creative ideas. So one is, of course, we definitely do have to build. We know that, right? We already know, but we can't build our way out of this crisis, right? We can't subsidize our way out of everything that's currently going on. But one of my creative ideas has to do with not only the 79th, but the entire state and the city of San Diego. We have decommissioned ships that are here. This is going to be a hard-fought conversation to have. But those ships are cities within itself. We can start to make sure that we're housing folks in these ships that provide wraparound services, support services, programs to get them to where they need to be, whether it's for mental health support, whether it's for home ownership, banking, whatever it is you need it, you name it, all that can be housed there. To help teach them how to move from where they currently are into the next phase. But homelessness has to do with mental health support services, making sure that we have enough funding that's coming down from the state to the counties and throughout the city to ensure that we are addressing the mental health concerns that currently exist and substance abuse. So there's a lot of things that have to be talked about on how we're going to approach it, but there was one creative idea that's there, but also mental health and substance abuse has to be addressed.
Yeah, I don't like when the answers to these questions are, we'll put them somewhere else. I don't think that's how we're gonna address this issue. I don't think that's fair, I don't think that's realistic. I think we need to be serious about this. People are homeless, they need homes. We need to make sure that there are places, there are roofs for people to be able to get out of the weather and to be safe. We also need services. We need some folks who are homeless or just poor, they just need a first and last month's rent, and then they're okay, right? Some people have mental health issues, and they need those kinds of services. Some people have addiction challenges. In San Diego now, if someone decides has this moment of clarity and they're ready to get clean, you have to get on a wait list. You have to get on a wait list. How long is that moment of clarity going to last? We need to be providing resources so that when someone can get to that point in their life, that we can say yes to them and help them immediately. And that's going to mean providing those services, providing those homes where the people are who are homeless right now, not somewhere else.
Thank you. Okay, for Mr. Garrett to start. The California, and you don't have to stay unless you wish to. The California Healthcare Foundation found that healthcare spending in the state totaled $405 billion, which averaged $10,299 per person in 2020. Do you think there is policy or legislation at the state level to help ease the burden of healthcare costs for Californians?
Sure, there are, and you know, there's a lot of different things that we should be looking at this differently. I think healthcare costs per person is definitely a big challenge, but I think that healthcare fairness, healthcare equity is also really important. Not everyone gets the same access to healthcare in California, not even within this district. We have so many people in our district, don't get health insurance from their employer. They don't. They have to rely on state services. They have to rely on Medi-Cal. They have to rely on Medicare. They have to rely on the really robust, hardworking people who are managing our community health clinics. We need to be investing in those programs so that everyone has the same access to health care as I do as someone who gets it through my employer. These are the things that I think we should be focused on. I'm less concerned about the total amount of spending. What I'm concerned about is making sure that everyone's getting the same access to healthcare and the same outcomes. And we're definitely not there yet. But fortunately, we live in a progressive state where I think we can get there with making some of the right choices.
So yes, there are things in place at the state level to address this. And I would like to look at this from an actual 3-layered process. So the first things first, the first way to approach that is looking at a Senate bill, SB 966, that was introduced by Scott, that is dealing with the pharmacy benefits managers. So we're looking at PBMs. This is going to be a piece of legislation that will obviously disclose the actual cost of all of our prescriptions, helping us to understand why things are being charged the way that they are. So we have to look at that, and therefore this process is going to make sure that people are being held accountable. The second step is dealing with pharmacies. I will definitely support the work of our state of trying to create our own medications, because by us creating our own medications, we're able to lower the cost of the medication itself. So think about insulin and so forth. And not only that, but it would also create jobs. The third approach would be to continue to work with the Office of Healthcare Affordability, as they are the ones who's going to continue to work with us to help slow down the actual healthcare spending and push for transparency and also accountability and also enforce spending targets based on the current bonds that we have.
So this chart Collins again. The Public Policy Institute of California finds that Californians owe nearly $142 billion in student loan debt. What can the state do to help minimize the cost of college education for California's youth?
Well, I'm one of those who went to college. The money is expensive. College should not be a debt sentence. And that's exactly what it is right now. We need to do everything we can to improve our California grants. We have to do the work to improve the grants. We need to do everything we can to continue to fund the middle-class scholarship programs that we currently have. We also have to do a better job of making sure families know and understand that tuition does not include the cost of housing. And so we need to do everything we can to ensure that us at the state level is providing resources to ensure that kids can remain in college and try to help absorb some of that particular cost. We are currently pushing the 529 Scholar Program for what we have, and I've also introduced the Cal Kids Program, which is another program that is a state program that is also encouraging people to start saving money for their students. But the biggest thing right now that we have been working on currently is trying to figure out a way to improve the Cal Grants program and our middle class scholarship work as well.
Yeah, I went to UC San Diego for undergrad, and it was a great opportunity, great value for the price. Benefited a lot from it. We need to have more opportunities for that for Californians to get that higher education, public education. But we shouldn't be thinking about ways to find new ways to get parents and students to pay more money. We need to hold some of these costs at bay here. I'm very much a Jerry Brown guy on this. I think we need to tell our public universities who are extremely valuable in California to say, listen, you need to take better account of the costs of the education you're providing. That students can't just suck this all up through more and more debt. That's not a sustainable way. It's not going to create broad access to education. And you know, it's almost twice as much now to go to UC San Diego than it was when I went. That doesn't make sense. And we have to be willing to have that conversation with our public agencies and our public universities to make sure that California can continue to be a place where public higher education is still accessible for everyone.
Thank you. All right. This is also on education. How do we improve TK and K-12 and post-secondary education in the 79th Assembly District? This is for Mr.
Yes, thanks. I figured out the pattern. Yeah, thanks for the question. It's very important. First of all, we absolutely have to maintain funding for public education. It's the biggest part of the state budget. This has been a really tough budget year in Sacramento. We're expecting to have tough budget years in the next few years, and we need to make sure that we're protecting education. But it also matters what we're teaching and the accountability we have on our education system. We need to make sure that we're really committed to following the science of reading. A lot of parents have had experiences where they've found their kid is not being taught the best practices of how to learn how to read. Not every student is getting the same access to high quality math instruction, challenging math instruction. We need to make sure that we're protecting both of those things and applying them fairly across the board so that every student in California, and especially here at the 79th, have that access to a high quality education that's going to prepare them for a good career and a good life here in California.
It boils down to two words: accountability and transparency. These things have to happen across the state itself. So too often people think that the San Diego County office and any county office have clear oversight, right? So people think that they have the right to come in and mandate and do certain things. Well, I'm here to tell you, I work for the county, we don't. The county needs to have the ability to approve and deny LCAPs. Right now, we can only approve them, but we need to be able to deny those because we know the work that is doing here within our current school system. So they need a lot more authority to be able to move forward to require a mandate. We currently have freedom, well, we used to have freedom schools, but now we have what's called community schools. These community schools are needed because they're going to help us operate what we did in the past, from when we had freedom schools. These things are extremely important to the survival and the viability of our education. It's important for us to protect the integrity of our education system. I know right now we have a lot of AI that's coming in, so that is impacting people's ability to read, people's ability to do that. But we have to do what we can to ensure that our students are receiving the highest education possible moving forward. But this was very hard to cram into 1 minute with education.
All right, shifting to a different topic. Between wildfires, coastal erosion on the San Diego coast, potential droughts, and supply shortages. What are your priorities in combating the environmental challenges that San Diego and communities like Spring Valley face, to include protecting homeowners' access to fire insurance? Yeah, you know, we could go on a little longer on this one if you want. But,
Well, I mean,
Okay, it's
you know
up to
what,
you.
let's keep it to 1 minute. 'Cause
Okay.
we're casual.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge that I know that Spring Valley was hit hard. It was hit hard during the January floods, and I know that we're still in the process of trying to recover from that. My family was also impacted by those floods, and so my heart goes out to you, and I do hope that you are receiving the services that you currently need. During that time, I did do some work, and I was able to bring 8,000 diapers and wipes to our districts. To make sure that families have this type of support services and what they need during that time. Some other things that I would look at, though, has to deal with addressing air conditioning. When you think about the heat waves and what we currently have had, and we talk about the quality of life and health, air conditioners are an issue when you think about some of the homes that are here. A lot of people do not have HVAC because we're not really on that coastal line. These are things that are important for the quality of health. Is it okay to finish it? You want me to push that and stuff? Okay, all right. And so this is something for us to address as we talk about the health disparities within the 79th district. I am proud to see that Spring Valley is working on a planning grant. And I do look forward to continue on the work with that as well as you're trying to move forward. But we need to do everything we can to not only have some HVAC in here to talk about the heat, but also make sure that we have money allocated from the state to the counties for the infrastructure for this district. What happened in January should never, ever happen again.
Yeah, so we've seen some pretty serious climate-related weather in the last year. We had big floods, and those floods were primarily concentrated here in the 79th, right? Floods here in Spring Valley, floods in Lemon Grove. Hardest hit was in Southwest, which is in the kind of the corner of this district. And there's all the talk you've seen in the press, the city of San Diego needs to do a better job cleaning out this or that. Yeah, that's all true, but the state actually funds a lot of stormwater infrastructure. And those funds have not been coming to the places where there's the greatest need. And that greatest need is right here, right? It's in the 79th. And so if we really want to make a real impact at protecting not just property, but people's lives, as we expect these kinds of things to continue, we need to, as a state, be thinking about these things differently. So my city of La Mesa, we got a nice stormwater grant to help improve the medians on University Avenue. It looks really nice, get all these compliments for it. Maybe it wasn't the highest priority, right? Maybe this is something that the state should prioritize areas that were more vulnerable to climate change than our community. And if I'm a member of the assembly, that's something that I want to do, is to talk to the state agencies, make them, if they're not open to it, to prioritize the kinds of infrastructure improvements and funding for the communities that are most vulnerable to climate disasters like that we recently experienced. That's what the state can do to really help this and to help protect homeowners and people's lives.
Thank you. The north side of the Sweetwater Reservoir is on the boundary of the 79th Assembly District. For 30 years, the people of Spring Valley and La Presa have advocated for a trail that loops around its northern part of the reservoir. Would you advocate at the state level and work with the county and Sweetwater Authority to see that completion of this trail becomes a reality?
I think we're both going to say yes. And let me just share a couple of things about this. So a lot of those kinds of programs can get funded through the budget cycle. In prior years, we've had some flush budgets. Some of our assembly representatives in the room here have brought us some good resources for our communities, including in La Mesa. Thank you, Dr. Weber. That Dr. Weber. So many Dr. Webers. And so when we are having more flush times, I think that's something I want to take a look at, and I want a lot of input from people about what those kinds of priority projects ought to be in our community. But we don't have to wait for the flush times too. There's other things that we can look at, existing grant programs, active transportation grant programs, things that I work on my day job, as running a nonprofit that works on outdoor engagement and safe streets. There are resources, and I think one of the important things that folks should be looking for their representative in the legislature is, are they aware of these things? Are they going to be going after these things? Are they going to be advocates of their community to make sure that we're getting the funding that we deserve? And you're going to definitely find that with me. Thanks.
So yes, you're correct. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I also would like to give kudos to our County Board of Supervisor, Monica, and Governor Steph, for helping to get $7 million allocated for the Cowboy Park as well, because she truly knows and understands the value of what it needs to happen as far as within our overall communities. But what I can say is that when you become elected, you are afforded the opportunity to allocate funds to a certain district project. So if elected, I will make this one of my priorities as far as allocating funding to the Blue Trail. Why? Because we know for a fact how valuable it is to not only to our mental health, but to our physical health and all the above, and also for social capacity. These things are key to our community, so I'll definitely continue to advocate for it in that type of manner, make sure money's coming in, and then make sure that we are investing within our park infrastructure.
Thank you. Spring Valley has been identified as an environmental justice community. What policies and commitments are you willing to make to ensure Spring Valley can receive equitable resourcing going forward?
Okay, I'm stay down. So, yes, environmental justice. Now I have to stand up. So for environmental justice, as I mentioned, we need to have HVACs, right? That's coming into our homes. But also, we have to start thinking about the housing developments that have been built within the 79th. The home that I purchased was built back in 1962. A lot of the homes within the 79th were built back in the 1950s and then some, and of course, until now. These homes have methane gas in them. We need to do what we can to not only protect the air outside, but also protect the quality of air inside. We are breathing in methane gas as we continue to move forward. We need to continue to do what we can to fund air purifiers. Air purifiers should also be coming into our homes. We have to do these things. But I also want to point out to you for my last 30 seconds is that, 15 seconds is that environmental justice is not just about, dealing with the grass and the air quality and all of that. It has to deal with socioeconomic factors. Socioeconomic factors play a major role in this as we talk about poverty and we talk about mental health and other things that come into play. So we have to have wraparound support services in place in order for us to move forward.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So environmental justice, if people are not familiar with the term, is this concept that a lot of our decisions that relate to the environment are disproportionately affecting low-income communities of color, and that's something that is a legacy of all sorts of different policies, and something that we really need to address in a systematic way. And that hasn't always been happening, right? You see in Spring Valley, right next to where people are living are industrial facilities, right? This is not great. And we have big diesel trucks running up and down, and wherever people live, these are problems. And these are things that we should be addressing in a broad way with public policy. One of the things that I'm a strong proponent of is tying many of our grant programs in California to the Cal Enviro Screen as a measure of environmental justice concerns. We need to keep doing that, both for transit funding, for infrastructure funding, for transportation funding. And these are things that we need to, California is the leader on this, and we need to continue that so that we're able to try to do our best to remedy some of these historic injustices that communities have faced.
How will you ensure that the issues Spring Valley and La Presa face will be included in your priorities, and not just focusing on the issues that impact areas where you have spent most of your career? Mr. Perry.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is a pretty big district. It's like 500,000 people in it. It's pretty internally diverse, right? It goes as far east as Elkhorn Holland, as far west as Southcrest. And none of us have lived everywhere, right? And so what an elected official needs to do to represent such a diverse and broad area is to be extremely accessible and do a really good job of hiring people to go out and to listen and to make sure that I'm brought to the community so I can listen to. I first ran for public office in 2016, and I put my phone number, my cell phone number, on all the mail that we sent out. And I still have that number, and it's on the website, it's on the mail that a lot of people got in their mailboxes today. If people want to call or text me, please wait till after the forum. And that's something that I think is that's reflective of my values and how I think elected officials ought to approach their job, and that's something that I'm going to continue to. I'm going to be present in Spring Valley just as I have been throughout the campaign, going door to door, and you're going to see a lot of me. I hope you guys don't get sick. Thanks.
It's extremely important that you have a strong presence throughout the entire district. You must hire staff that is a true reflection of the population you want to serve. People who understand the ins and outs of the district within itself, but also make sure that you are bringing your office to the district. That means holding community office hours. That means meeting people over at libraries and doing some other things, because not everybody has the means to come to you. So making sure that you have an open door policy, which is something that we did while I was serving as district director for our now Secretary of State. We made sure that our constituent services were at libraries, we were at senior centers, we were at different types of community events, and so forth. So we always have an open door policy to let people know that your voice is power and that we want to learn from you. Also, having legislative brainstorming sessions. These legislative ideas are not just things that's going to fall out of the sky. Your voice is powerful. We need to hear from you to know what your needs, wants are, and make sure that we are aligned with your overall goals and values. And so these are things that I would do, is making sure that I'm bringing our district to you, so you don't always have to come to us.
During your time in service, is there a decision you made that you would make differently today if given another chance?
If I have to be honest, no. Why? Because I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. Your past experiences you interpret your everyday life. And you have to be able to embrace those experiences in order to move forward, and also be able to embrace those experiences to move change. One of the key slogans, I know that there was a question about the film, asking what is one of your favorite movies to watch. Mine is Sankofa. Because it is important for you to be able to look back to move forward. You must reach back to look forward in life. And understand who you are, where you come from, and the journey you have taken, the path you have taken to get to that. So if it's something that I need to change, I will change it, because that's something that was meant for me to go through, for me to learn from that, and to become better from that particular process.
Yeah, I've learned a lot in serving elected office. There's a bunch of things that I've done that if I could do them over again, I would do them differently. And I think that's actually one of the best things about serving an elected office. You learn some of those things, you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you change how you approach things on a going forward basis. In 2020, we had a proposal, during COVID, we had a proposal from the state to help buy a hotel that was vacant and turn it into permanent supportive housing. I was the only person on my council who supported that. And I think I was right to do that, but one lesson that I learned from that was that we should have done a much better job of pushing to ensure that we had some formal community input processes to really listen to hear people's concerns. I'm not sure, I think I also probably would have supported it regardless, but I think maybe we would have done something different. Maybe we would have taken some input and changed some of the program model. And most importantly, people probably would have felt better about the process if they got a chance to participate in it. And that was something that I learned from my experience, and I think it's informed the way that I operate as an elected official since.
Studies show that union membership numbers remain one of the strongest correlations in explaining the decline of the American working class. Discuss your relationship with labor unions and your commitment to rebuilding the American middle class.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've read some of those studies too. I'm very much supportive of organized labor. I'm very proud to be one of the endorsed candidates up here by the California Labor Federation, but I am the only candidate up here who supported and championed and got across the finish line a project labor agreement for the jurisdiction of which I'm an elected official. And that project labor agreement says that when we're building public infrastructure at the city of La Mesa, we have a commitment to work with our building trades or our construction or our carpenters unions to ensure that the public expenditures that we're making on the public's behalf is being used to create good, high-quality, middle-class jobs. That's something that I'm very proud of. It's something that I think is going to be one of my biggest accomplishments on the City Council of La Mesa, and I believe speaks to my commitment to protecting the middle class, to advancing the cause of workers, and to make sure that that we can create an economy that's just and fair and inclusive of everyone.
I am the only candidate up here who is a proud union member. I'm a member of California Faculty Association. I come from a union household, not just my immediate family, but also my extended family, hard workers. The work that I've done with unions have been to ensure that people understand that there are good quality jobs. Unions are there to help produce good quality jobs, benefits, okay? The wages that are there, and to empower your overall voice. Too often people forget that they have the voice. And the unions are there to help uplift not only those that are ununionized, but those that are unionized. That's what they're there to do. I would not be standing here today if it wasn't not for the values of the union and the support of our union family. My mom and my father and being a part of the union within itself. The unions have been there to protect people of color for quite some time. So when you think about the sanitation workers that Dr. King was out there marching for, that was because he understood that civil rights are human rights. He understood that workers' rights are human rights. And unions have so much to offer, and I am a proud union member, and I stand firm and tall.
Thank you. San Diego Board of Supervisors and La Mesa City Council received controversial comments at meetings this year via public Zoom. What is your position on participation via Zoom for public meetings?
Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves to be respected. Everyone they deserve to be valued. We cannot limit people's voices. If they cannot be in the room, allow them to come and participate via Zoom. I know we have no way of trying to screen what people are going to say, but if we know who we are and we stand on our values and make sure that those who are responsible for coordinating the meetings are coordinating the meetings accordingly and holding people accountable through that process, that's great. But I'm not one to shut down people's voices. Voices are power, and together we can make a difference.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we had in La Mesa some Zoom bombers came in earlier this year who had like 20 minutes of anti-Semitic rants. It was really awful. I actually walked out of the room when that happened. We weren't allowed to speak as council members from the dais, but I wanted I wanted to demonstrate that I didn't think this was acceptable and appropriate. We paused online public comment after that, and this is after, by the way, I led on allowing for online public comment during COVID and extending that after COVID. And now I'm kind of going round and round with our city attorney about in what format we're able to bring them back. I'm not sure what the outcome of that is going to be, but I think it's important also to think really critically about sort of what are the trade-offs here. The challenge with having that circumstance where you're allowing those folks to come in and do this really destructive thing, it's not just that the concern about that is not just their freedom of speech, however ugly it might be, but it's also to what extent does that deter other people from being able to participate too. If someone comes in and has an hour long of that mean that someone else who has some actual business before the council is not going to be able to do that? These are some really hard trade-offs that I think we're in the middle of navigating that with my city of La Mesa.
Thank you. Spring Valley and La Presa are lacking in public transportation options. Do you have any suggestions for addressing this issue? Or is it an issue?
Yeah, so it's an issue. So my name's Colin. I'm a city council in La Mesa, but I also run a nonprofit called Circulate San Diego, one of the region's leading advocates for public transit. So this is something I do a lot. I'm a regular public transit user, and this is a sort of an area that I have a lot of passion around. There's a lot of things that we can and should do for communities like Spring Valley to improve transit access. You know, building a trolley out to Spring Valley, probably pretty expensive, probably not going to happen anytime soon. But what we can do is we can, with existing funds, we could do things like improving the frequency of our existing bus system. Right? Those are some things that are relatively affordable and can make a big difference to people's lives. Right now, if you want to come to this Spring Street station in La Mesa to catch a trolley to come downtown, the feeder buses coming from Spring Valley come every hour. That's bananas. Who's going to be able to rely on that? What we could do is we could fund more of those buses to run more frequently so that people don't have to wait an hour and can actually get where they're going in a reasonable amount of time.
We are in alignment. Yes, so is there an issue? Yes, there is. Because we do 100% have to increase the bus routes that are here. We definitely have to deal with the rails that are here. I know that we have the purple line that's being talked about and trying to be implemented, but we need to do everything we can to ensure that we are connecting those that are here to not only East County, but to our central parts and our northern parts and southern parts of our entire county. We should not have to continue to try to figure out how we're going to get to point A to point B. And so, yes, is there an issue? Yes, it is. But this issue is also a social justice issue, it's also an environmental issue. It plays into all of the other factors and from what we are already sitting here talking about. And so we have to put things in place to ensure people have equal access to their jobs. People are losing jobs because they can't get to work. With equal access to their jobs, equal access to medical care, transportation to get to medical care, and other things we would still like to do just to have quality of life. So yes, it is an issue that must be addressed.
Thank you. I feel like we need a seventh-inning stretch or something, because we're going along and strong, but we've got a good stack of questions, so we're going to carry on. So, what is your stance on the completion of State Route 125-94 interchange and the widening of SR 125 under the Merritt-Mariposa Bridge?
First, there you go. I would like to thank Chris personally, along with everyone else who have done a tremendous job on advocating for funds for the I-25 freeway. We know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I look forward to, if elected, I do look forward to continuing to work with you to make sure that this remains a priority, not only throughout Caltrans, but also just not a priority for funding to come in to help complete the project. So thank you so much for everything you have done and those who have done this work with you. And so it's important that we have greater modes of our transportation as well. And so then it's just going to help us with our overall congestion that we currently have. It's going to help us as far as the air quality issues that we currently have, because the city is only growing. And it is growing. So infrastructure has to be done, money has to be allocated, and I will do everything I can to speak to the director of Caltrans to make sure that this remains a priority. Because to my knowledge, they said this is a priority. I want to make sure that the 125 freeway is going to continue to remain a priority and is finished within a timely fashion.
So I run a nonprofit. We do a lot of advocacy around transportation and climate, and you know, we don't always think that. Through that work, I've learned a lot of stuff. I don't always think that freeway expansions are always a good idea. They don't always solve. They rarely solve traffic congestion. Right? You expand them, and the traffic just comes back. They never improve the environment. It's just more greenhouse gas emissions. But they're not all the same. And I actually looked at this one pretty closely. Talked to some folks at Sandag. Looked at some of their climate modeling. They basically showed that it's going to be a net it's not going to have a net zero impact in climate emissions. So, and it does address an actual bottleneck that I see. So I'm fine with it, supportive of it. But I do think that one of the things that we also always need to be on the lookout for is that those kinds of projects, expanding highways, is definitely not always the only solution. And in fact, when we do that, it oftentimes limits our ability to make investments in other kinds of transportation priorities. And so I'm going to look at them very carefully on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. Transparency and community engagement help voters have faith in governance. Please describe what positive actions you personally took to enhance transparency and improve two-way communication between existing resident voters in the community you represent and their local government bodies.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So one of the first things that I did when I got elected to the City Council in La Mesa is to move to ask my council, and they agreed to move our City Council meetings to all begin at 6 o'clock in the evening. Every other one started at 4 o'clock, which made it very difficult for people with 9 to 5 jobs to be able to participate. And I think that's been good, and it's allowed for a greater diversity of people to be able to attend and participate in local government. I already shared with you all that I put my cell phone number out in the public for anyone to call. I get calls all the time from people, and I can't always pick up right at the moment, but I always give everyone a call back. And one of the things I like to do as a council member is I hold open office hours at our farmers market in La Mesa. I believe I'm the only council member who've done that in the last decade or so. I think that's been a really positive thing to not only to demonstrate to people that I'm available, but to actually be available to be able to catch people as they're walking by, to hear their concerns, and to write them down and be able to come back to them subsequently to be able to help address the challenges they may have with our local government. Thanks.
My title at the San Diego County Office of Education is Community Engagement Specialist. In order for you to be a community engagement specialist, you have to know how to cultivate and build positive working relationships, build trusting relationships. And that's what it's going to take in this position, is to make sure that you're able to not only find middle ground, because this is what I do every day, working with we have 42 school districts, but the county is also a 43rd with over 500,000 students, evaluating programs and services to ensure that we're meeting people where they are. We're building the trust once again. That is key. You have to meet people where they are. As I previously mentioned, we will have office hours, and what we've done before, but not only office hours, but continue to speak to you. Speak to you as community members and find out what your concerns are, your needs, and your wants. And the one question that I tell people all the time through my current position is to ask is, what is it about you wish I knew? And pause and sit in that question. Because that opens the door for you to now have a conversation with me to help me get to know you and understand your needs and help me understand how I can help address those needs. That's how you're going to cultivate true positive trust and working relationships.
Please describe specific life experiences you have had that enable you to have a depth of understanding regarding the needs of the current 79th Assembly District residents you wish to represent.
Born and raised, Southeast San Diego, 79th State Assembly District. Received all of my public education there. Attended San Diego State University there. Not only is it the fact that I'm born and raised, I understand the struggles of purchasing a home. I understand the struggles of having to pay rent and what it was like to pay rent. And then to be moved out of that location only because there was a mortgage scam that took place during that time frame. I understand what it's like. I understand what it's like to walk outside my door and have to look over my shoulder because, one, I'm a woman and a woman of color. But in various types of communities, we shouldn't have to walk out of our doors being concerned about whether or not our young men are going to be able to come back home because of different types of experiences. I have witnessed my brother's friend murdered in our front yard from a party, from his graduation party back in 1994. I understand the gun violence that has existed. And this is why I'm a strong champion of, to help curb the gun violence that currently exists. So my experiences within the district that has qualified me, not only because I was district director for Secretary of State Weber and ran the office, and that's how I'm extremely qualified for that. But my lived experience plus my work experiences makes me the most qualified candidate for this, because I can speak truth to power for what the district has gone through. And I've seen it go from where it is to now, and I only want to grow and make it better.
Yeah, so I grew up in East County, served in elected office now for the better part of 8 years in La Mesa, which is a big part of the district. And so I got that direct experience living here, but also, I haven't had the experience of buying a home because I'm a renter, like most of the people in this district. And I understand very viscerally the challenges of not only paying rent, but also the seeming impossibility for being able to buy a home, something that I think a lot of renters aspire to, not all of them, but a lot of them, and understand that frustration that so many people have for their housing situations. I'm also a regular transit rider. This district probably has the highest concentration of transit riders in the region, and I know that the challenges of the bus not coming on time or feeling unsafe on the trolley, and these are some things that I've got some personal experience with, and also some experience as a policymaker and advocate to help address. And those are some of the things that I look forward to bringing forward to my role in the Assembly.
Okay. What is your position on protecting a woman's right to her own health care decisions?
Yeah, I'm 100% pro-choice, and I think we gotta get government, we gotta get politicians out of the doctor's offices and out of those conversations between a woman and her medical providers. That's just simple, and it's so bizarre that the folks are trying to get in between that. They're trying to impose their values on individuals. We have a big diverse country. We have a big diverse district. We need to allow and encourage, allow and respect people making their own choices. So when I was to give you a good example, in law school, I actually flew out to South Dakota for a special election and walked door to door against Referred Law 6, which was going to abrogate reproductive choices in South Dakota. We were able to win that thing, but we need to be bringing back protections like Roe to make sure that we're not facing these on a state-by-state basis, so that everyone in this country is able to make those kinds of choices for themselves.
I served on the board of Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest for 6 years, on the executive board for 6 years. And as a past board member, I am truly proud and honored to stand with the state of California in regards to the work that we're currently doing to continue to work and to protect the reproductive rights of women, but also the LGBT community. There are so many things that we have done so far for what we have currently fought for, and we have some new legislation that are being introduced to increase our telehealth services. Those are things that are extremely important because not everybody has an opportunity to get down to the medical center. Looking at the Abortion Equity Act. This is something that our own Assembly member, Dr. Keely Weber, has also introduced. These things are extremely important, but making sure that people know and understand it's bans off of our bodies. This is important. And so I'm proud to stand with the state as far as the work they're doing to ensure people have equal access to quality health care. Those that are coming from other states, the funding is there as they're traveling in to seek out support services. So when you're asking what have I done and how I stand and what I support, I've been with Planned Parenthood for a very long time before I even served on the board. And I'll continue to stand and fight for women's reproductive rights in the community. Thank you.
The California Highway Patrol is responsible for traffic-related matters on the streets of the unincorporated communities of Spring Valley and La Presa. What ideas do you have for using the CHP to make our streets safer? What can the state do to improve public safety in our community?
So when you talk about public safety, you need to know and understand that it goes beyond typical mindset of public safety. We're talking about elder abuse. We're talking about child abuse. We're talking about drug abuse and other things that have plagued our communities for quite some time, and that law enforcement have been doing what they can to work with it. We need to make sure, as I've stated before, that we have mental health support services in place. I know we have our CHP that are there. We need to make sure that, yes, we have enough trainings in place, adequate trainings that are in place to ensure that we're not having any type of racial discrimination and bias work that as far as actions taking place. But we have to do what we can to rebuild the trust of our communities when it comes down to our law enforcement. But public safety goes beyond just the gun violence. It goes into your homes. It goes into making sure your child is going to be taken care of. And so we have to start thinking about it from different ways and making sure we have funding available for programs and services, like I said, for mental health support, but also making sure that we have enough training in place to make sure that we're trying to rebuild the relationships that we have with our community to our public safety officers.
Yeah, so it's actually the sheriff's department that polices the local streets and roads in the county, not the California Highway Patrol. That being said, their state really does have a role to play in this. So as folks may know, there's this Office of Traffic Safety that's in California that gets federal funding that they reallocate to local governments, including local police departments like the sheriff's department, like the city of La Mesa's police department, like the city of San Diego's police department. And those are really important funds to protect, to fund DUI enforcement. We use that in La Mesa to do that. In my day job at Circulate San Diego, we work in partnership with the County of San Diego on some of those grants to teach kids how to walk and bike safely to school. One of the things that people are having a growing understanding is a lot of people are getting killed and injured on our streets. In some jurisdictions, people are getting killed more in traffic crashes than they are through homicides. And that's just a really awful thing. And we need to be rethinking about our streets, reprioritizing safety so that everyone's able to safely get around without fearing for their lives.
All right, before I go on to the next question, I understand there are some people who are recording, and we do have, we really prefer if we don't do recording. That's not something that we usually do in these forums. Thank you. Okay. San Diego County is home to over 240,000 military veterans. What are some policies at the state level that can support veterans?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is one of the great things about San Diego is we have so many people who come to San Diego through military service and who decide to stay, right? And we should be embracing that. That's an important core part of our community. And we need to be funding a variety of different things. So we have a disproportionate number of people who are homeless in our community are veterans. We actually have the largest population of veterans from the Iraq-Afghanistan wars that are here in the San Diego region. So this is a very big challenge for us. We need to be making sure that it's unacceptable for any person who is a veteran to be homeless. We need, and now we have a big crisis, especially because Veterans Village is in trouble in our region, a major provider of those services. So we need to make sure that we're fully funding those kinds of programs, that we're fixing the providers that are not meeting our expectations, so that we continue to have those kinds of resources. That's just this is a bigger question than 1 minute can do justice for, but that's an especially important one that is very much top of mind to me at this moment.
Those of you in the room who have served this country, thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for your service. When we talk about veterans, yes, the most common answer is housing, right, for veterans. It's about education for veterans and so on. But for me, it goes back to the mental health support services. We need to continue to increase the funding for mental health support services. We often talk about the PTSD, right? We always talk about the trauma from that. But one thing that I've noticed is constantly missing right now is talking about MST, military sexual trauma, that a lot of people are not receiving benefits for because it's not listed inside their actual record from even have gone through that particular type of trauma. We need to start looking into ways to ensure that even because they did not report it then, because out of fear, that they can come back in now to report it now. And not only is it that, but also looking at the families that are receiving VA benefits. once the person has passed on, that the VA benefits can still remain with that family. Because right now, when the person passes, the benefits leave. The state needs to do what it can to ensure that our families can continue to receive the quality of care, one, that they deserve, but for what they had when their spouse was here.
This is a broad question, and a narrow question, actually. How do you think, what do you think should be done about crime? And do you have an opinion about Proposition 36?
How did I know that was going to come up? I'll tell you right now, I'm not a fan of criminalizing our folks within our community. I'm not. The reason why we did this work so long ago, dealing with the previous Proposition 47, was because when we had huge mass incarceration issues that was currently taking place. And now here we are, thinking about is the next steps of now going back to mass incarceration once again by tapping on different things, adding on different types of sentences to folks. So I'm letting you know, I'm not a fan of criminalizing our community. What we need to do is get back to the root of the problem. The root of the problem has to do with poverty. It has to do with education. It has to do with the lack of resources and access available. This is not just about people who are formerly incarcerated coming back out to your community. This is a systemic issue. This is a part of the barriers that currently exist. We have to do what we can to break down these systemic barriers for what we currently have and make sure that people have what they need. It's people who are struggling to eat and live in everyday life that is going through these processes, not just those that are being released in prison.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I'm going to be voting for Prop 36, like most Californians, I think. And I say this as someone who voted for Prop 47. I think at the time, when Prop 47 was before the voters, we had some big challenges. We had prison overcrowding, and we had some major budget challenges that we were not able to sustain. It was the right choice to vote for that. But today we have different challenges. We have fentanyl that is just running amok in our communities. We have shoplifting that is pretty dramatic in a lot of circumstances, making it much more difficult for customers to be able to access ordinary goods going to the stores. And I was really hoping that the legislature and the governor were going to address this in the last legislative session, and they didn't. They failed. And so now we're in this situation where the voters need to step in and to make some corrections and to shift things. I don't think this is perfect, but I also think that we need to be realistic about what's happening and being responsive to the moment with public policy solutions that can address the challenges that we're facing today.
Thank you. Black boys and men are often left out of policy at the state level. What commitment are you willing to make to ensure economic development and mental health support for this group?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think one of the things that we see in 79 is a lot of great organizations, nonprofits who are focused on these kinds of issues. A lot of them are funded through state programs or through the county or through state funding that's reallocated to the county. We need to make sure these things are big priorities and they continue to be even in a difficult budget environments. And it's not just funding nonprofits. We also need to make sure that there are other things like economic development, funding the governor's office of business development and the programs that they have, so that people are able to not just get services from a nonprofit, but also opportunities to participate in economic life, to be able to get jobs, to start businesses, to be able to afford to purchase a home, to be able to be part of a long-term part of our community. Those are some big important things. And it's just, it's very clear that not everyone has the same access to those things right now. And we have to acknowledge that and make sure that we're being responsive to that, meeting the needs of the community that we're
The Boys and Men of Color Initiative, this is a really good question. I'm going to be speaking on a panel for the Boys and Men of Color as well, coming up in the next 2 weeks or so. And so the work that we need to do is continue to work with our different community organizations, continuing to work with our K-12 and also higher ed institutions in regards to ensuring that things are in place, such as different types of program services, needing trainings as well. Working with the Workforce Partnership in Urban League, San Diego, and some other entities, other organizations to help ensure that people understand how to grow and also thrive when it comes to starting up your own businesses. That is something that is key in order for us to continue to move forward. Identify the mentors and make sure that we have mentors that are not only coming out to our school systems, but also we have these pillars of the community. We have these different organizations that currently exist that is helping to do the work to ensure that we're ushering in a whole new vision, a whole new meaning for what it means to stand up for this district and for our community. So making sure things are in place for boys and men of color is key, but also for women of color, girls and women of color as well with these programs as well.
What is your stand on cannabis reparations?
Cannabis itself, there's a number of things we can do when it comes down to cannabis. Cannabis equity is important. That was a big conversation that has happened for quite some time. And that is important. Cannabis equity, the work that's being done, can be utilized to help revitalize not only our community, but the entire state. There's a lot of work that we can look into as far as money, and looking at different types of state banks and ways to offset the cost of the housing. So many different things and what we can do when it comes to cannabis equity. But also, it's going to help right the wrongs of what was done to people from the BIPOC communities in regards to the sentencing because of what it was like. But it's going to help to make sure that our community become partners within the work. So that means we're going to be able to offer generational wealth to them as well as they are now helping to build and grow. So cannabis equity is extremely important, and we can build off of that to help change some of the current issues that we have within the state.
Yeah, so, I supported legalizing cannabis in La Mesa. I was the only person on the ballot in 2016 to do that. Now the council has kind of changed their mind and come along, and so we've been supportive of that. I think that's been good. It's also generated some good tax revenue for our city. It's also generated a lot of wealth for some of the investors in that space, right? And I think we can see pretty clearly that it's not equal who gets access to that wealth, right? And I think it speaks to a broader challenge, that access to capital for people who want to start businesses, who want to get into new economies. And so, yes, I'm supportive of cannabis reparations, cannabis equity programs. Those are things that I think we can support to help rebalance those scales within the cannabis space. We shouldn't limit it to that. That we really need to make sure that everyone who has the drive and the willingness and the heart to start a business are able to access capital in the same way. And right now, that's not the case. Right? It's really hard for certain communities to be able to do that. And you're seeing that who's investing and owning in those cannabis shops today.
Thank you. This is going to be our last question, and then after that we'll have closing comments. I'm going to rephrase this question, which is about campaign finance. The question is, how will you ensure that you not only follow legal standards for campaign finance, but ethical standards as well? I'd like to expand it to ask if there are any reforms to campaign finance rules.
Yeah, so I think we're actually very blessed in California with a pretty robust campaign finance disclosure rule system. We have a federal Fair Political Practices Commission. People can go out online right now and find out how much money is, any candidate is raised, how much money is being spent on their behalf or against them, and all this. I think someone in the room is responsible for that. Oh yes, the other guy. And I think we're actually doing a good job on that. What we need to be doing is making sure that the Secretary of State's office has sufficient funding to be able to update those systems. They're pretty old. I know people have heard that before, but I think we really do need to make those investments so that to continue to constantly improve to make sure we have access to those things. I'm going to hold myself to high standards on this. I have I have a treasurer, they're responsible, they help me, fill out all the forms and make sure that we're doing all these things. I'm very committed to that. I think I have a strong record on that. And, but I think for the broader public, for public policy, we need to make sure that the state, Secretary of State's office has adequate funding to make sure that we're modernizing our disclosure system so that everyone has access to this information.
If you can go back and just repeat that. Yes, please.
First part is how will you ensure that you not only follow legal standards for campaign finance, but ethical standards as well? And I added, do you have any ideas for reforming the campaign finance system?
So following the actual standards means following the required criteria, right? The deadlines, and meeting those deadlines, reporting the things that we are all supposed to be reporting, and we need to make sure that we are being transparent with all of our financials that are coming in. And so these things are extremely key. Also looking to make sure that those that are coming in and putting a lot more additional funding into these campaigns, we have to monitor that and see how those funds are coming in, because people are now being a little slick with how they're investing into different types of campaigns, doing your max outs, but then moving stuff and other things here to hide and do all these things. We have to tighten up on these different types of regulations that exist, so we can follow the dollars and make sure how and identify how funding is being used. Yes, make sure that we know that there's enough funding for the Secretary of State's office as we continue to monitor this overall work. But it boils down to, once again, as we always say, it's accountability and transparency, but also integrity. So make sure that you are doing everything is right, because that's who you are based on your values, and you are reporting everything that you are required to do.
Thank you. Okay, before our candidates give their closing remarks, I want to thank you all for being such an attentive audience and for asking so many good questions. So I'd also like to tell you a little bit about some of the work that League of Women Voters does during this very busy election season. As you may know, one of our jobs, or at least the jobs we think we like to do, is to inform voters. And we have several tools that we offer voters that I want to tell you about. One is Vote 411. This is a nationwide, it's essentially a search engine. You could go to this website, put in your address, and what will come up is just the candidates that you will be voting for and just the ballot measures. And then you will get nonpartisan information about both of them, about both sides of the ballot measure. And then I want to tell you about, there are some other things that we here in San Diego are doing. As we speak, we're videotaping a ballot talk where we talk about all 10 California measures and all the local measures as well. As you leave, take a card that has this QR code on it, and it will take you to both Vote 411 as well as all the other nonpartisan information that both the State League and the local league offer. And we do have some candidate forum videos. We don't have this one, but we'll get them next time. So anyway, but please, on your way out, take a picture or take a card. So now for closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes.
Thank you all again for taking time out of your busy day to come here this evening to listen to both of us. Hopefully earn your overall support as we're both seeking these 79 state assembly district seats. I am the candidate that, like I said, is born and raised within the 79 state assembly district, have deep roots within this district, a single mother of 2, raising my kids in this particular district, who understands what a lot of people have gone through based on their past experience, but also based on my current experiences as well. When you decide to vote for someone for this seat, I want you to think about both candidates and think about whether or not you're able to see yourself within the work they're doing. It is important for you to be able to see yourself based on all the different types of things that I haven't talked about here, but also doing your own research. I'm asking you to vote your values. Stand true to who you are. We need to have someone in this city who is not afraid to stand up and fight for different things, because we know that the road is not going to be easy. None of this is easy. Even getting up here and having a conversation with you all, it's not easy. The road is not going to be easy, but I know that there's no one-size-fits-all model approach to address any of the issues we want to currently talk about here moving forward. It is important that you know that I'm here to be your voice. You will be heard. You will be valued. You will be respected. You will not be marginalized. Because I won't be able to do this work without you if I am elected. This is all of our collective responsibility to move forward in this particular journey. I've been endorsed by the California Democratic Party, endorsed by the California Nurses Association, California Medical Society, Dr. Keith Weber, currency holder for 79th State Assembly District, Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, State Senator Pro Tem Emeritus Tony Atkins, along with the Sierra Club, CTA, CFA, and a host of others as well. Over 140 endorsements have come in because they know and understand that I hold true to my values. I am who I am, and you won't have to worry about me forgetting about you. I will bring you to the table because you are promised a seat, and you will always have that with me. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm Dr. LaShae Collins, candidate for 79th State Assembly, and I look forward to learning you all our vote. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone again for being here, for spending your time to participate in our democracy. This is really what citizenship is all about. So I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to speak with you all. So I grew up in the East County part of the area. I earned my Eagle Scout badge at Troop 362 just down the way in Rancho San Diego. I've served in elected office here for the last 8 years, and really think that I have the relevant experience to be able to do a good job to represent our community in the state legislature. And we really do have a wonderful community, but we do have problems, and we have to be serious about solving those problems. It is too expensive to live here. It is too difficult to make the rent. It is too difficult to be able to buy a home. It's not enough just to talk about that. We have to have real solutions that are going to make it easier for people to get by and to be able to have a stake in our community. I have a background in doing that, both at the State Department of Housing and through my role as a member of the City Council. Homelessness is a real issue. This is not just a concept, this is not just someone else's problem, and it's not enough to just say, let's move them over there. Let's create some solution for them somewhere else. That's not acceptable. We should not accept that, and we hear that way too often. I have a background in affordable housing policy that I can bring to bear on this issue. I have offered real solutions for this. We have funded our homeless outreach team in La Mesa. I have championed at great political cost housing for homeless people right in my own backyard. This is the kind of strength and commitment to policy solutions that our district needs and deserves. That's what I have to offer, and that's what I'm going to provide. I'd be really grateful for your consideration when you're casting your ballot in the 79th Assembly District. If you want to find out more, you can go to my website, colinparent.org. You can follow me on all the social medias at colinparent, and I look forward to talking with some of you after this event. Thank you so much.
So, on behalf of the Spring Valley Community Alliance and the League of Women Voters, I want to thank the candidates for their thoughtful engagement with a full range of questions.